Hello and welcome back to the course on blockchain. And today we're talking about decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs for short. So if you've been in the world of Ethereum, kind of like exploring the world of Ethereum, you might have come across this term. So do not confuse it with the DAO. The DAO is something we'll discuss in the coming tutorial, probably the next one. That's a specific DAO. This is general DAOs. And so what are decentralized autonomous organizations? Well, let's start answering a question by asking another question. What are organizations these days? And here's an example. If you set aside all of the assets of the organization and all of the actual work they do, whether it's like physical labor, like drilling holes in the ground or laying cables or building buildings, or it could be creative work, design work, and so on. If you put those things aside, inside the organization, what runs the organization? That's the question we're asking. Well, it's usually a hierarchical structure where you have directors, managers, more managers, and then employees. And all of these people do certain things to make the company operate. And the question is, what exactly do they do? What do these people do? Well, these people follow protocols. They follow certain procedures in order to make this company operate. For example, if an invoice comes in, you need to check these things off. If they check off, then you need to pay the invoice, or you need to raise the purchase order. You pay the invoice, or if you need to invoice somebody else. No, how does it work? That's right. If the invoice comes in, then you raise the purchase order, then you pay the invoice, something like that. I haven't done that in a while. And so, like checking things off. Or another example, like if it's the end of the month, check number of employees, check their bank accounts, pay money to their bank accounts. That's all done by humans most of the time. There's lots more other examples. Those are just financial examples, but there's operational examples and lots of things that are done in an organization that are just procedures that need to be followed. There's of course room for strategy and growth of the organization and other important business decisions. But at the core, the running of an organization is like if there's a car driving. Yes, somebody's steering it and they're deciding where to go, left and right and which way, but the car has to run. And so there's lots of little parts inside the car that are doing their thing that make the car work. Same thing, any organization has work that needs to be done that are just procedures and protocols. And so the question is, how do these people know the procedures and protocols? Well, they are given the procedures and protocols, and very often they're even written out in their contract exactly what they need to be doing. So the contract specifies their protocols or procedures of what type of work that they'll be doing. So how about we take that idea further and we say, well, if we really put our mind to it, then we can create an organization where people don't have to be doing this. This can all be done automatically. This can all be done by computers. And that brings in the notion of smart contracts. What if we replace all these people with smart contracts, which their design is to have conditions? If something happens, do this. If this happens, do that, and so on. So if you write out all those protocols and then code them, because as we discussed, we have a Turing complete programming language. You can code any logic into it. If you code all those things into smart contracts, all of a sudden you have an organization that's running itself. And that's what DAOs are all about. I know this might sound quite far-fetched, but let's have a look at a couple examples to make this concept more relatable. So we're going to look at two examples. So first one is a company or decentralized autonomous organization that does a ride service, like a ride service, right? So it's not actually ride sharing because the cars are driving themselves autonomously even. So even a car can be autonomous, as we've seen from the news lately. So cars are driving themselves and the organization is driving itself, right? Is running itself. So a person is waiting for a car. They want to go from their house to their work. A car appears. Person gets in the car. Car drives them all the way to work. Car drops them off at work. There's another person waiting. Now they need to go pick up this person, or Yeah, so they need to go somewhere else. The car needs to go pick up another person. And the car for itself, because of the smart contracts, because of the programming that's embedded in this organization, it can decide for itself that it needs more petrol, stops by the petrol station. Then there's a smart contract that governs how it interacts with the petrol station. And the petrol station itself can have a smart contract. The car checks off on that smart contract. The petrol station checks off on the smart contract of the car. There's an exchange of petrol for whatever currency the petrol station accepts. And then the car drives on. So this whole process doesn't need a human involved. Even starting from, doesn't need to be a driver anymore, or soon in the near future there won't need to be a driver, to the whole point of the car can decide for itself when to get petrol. The computer in the organization or on the blockchain, it's all happening on the blockchain. The computer on the blockchain can decide which users are closest and which users it needs to go pick up and things like that. So at the end of the day, you really don't need much human intervention in running an organization like this. And moreover, if this organization is designed on the blockchain, so it's not like a centralized organization, it's a decentralized. So decentralized meaning that it doesn't belong to, or the servers don't belong to one specific company. So even if it was founded by certain people that started it off, but because it's completely decentralized and these contracts are written out on the blockchain, the key thing here to understand is that even if that company itself like fades or fails, or like those people are no longer interested in running it, the contracts exist. The smart contracts still exist on the blockchain, and the organization is going to keep running itself. So it doesn't need that human intervention. It doesn't need a board of directors. It doesn't need managers. It doesn't need employees. It just all happens on its own on the blockchain. That's the concept of DAO. And so let's have a look at a different example. So here we've got an organization which provides a computational service from the cloud to its customers. It could be something like a proprietary machine learning algorithm to predict certain things about how like marketing is going to succeed or fail, or things like that. And so the question is, why would it be on the cloud if we have the blockchain? Well, fair point, fair point. But let's stick with this example. It's one of Vitalik's example. I really liked it. So it doesn't have necessarily to do with the blockchain, but we'll say that the smart contracts and everything that's running this organization is on the blockchain. It just, for some reason, it needs to operate from the cloud for whatever reason, just for argument's sake. And so what it would do is it would grow. This company would provide the service. It would grow, and then it would decide for itself that it's time to open another cloud service, like another computing service, and open another cloud account somewhere. And it would go and find another cloud, open an account, and it would expand on its own. The key notion here is a organization like that could even expand and grow on its own when its revenue hits a certain threshold. Because of the logic coded into the smart contracts, it understands that it's time to expand its services. It could go and expand to another cloud. And then after a while, like, it might run out of cloud services that it's are pre-coded into it. So it might have some logic coded on how to go to Google and find more cloud services, and they would expand there as well. So it's a very basic example, and in fact, Vitalik doesn't even he gives this example in a different way. He calls this an autonomous agent rather than a decentralized autonomous organization. Either way, it illustrates the point that with logic, we can code things that will run themselves and run on their own, and with the power of blockchain, we can make them decentralized, meaning that that logic doesn't have to live in a silo of an organization. It can live on the blockchain, and therefore, if this organization is profitable and it can grow, even if the people who started it are no longer interested in it or running it or anything, that it can survive on its own. It can just keep running and keep serving the community. That's the whole notion behind DAOs. And if you'd like to learn more, I would highly recommend this article, this blog written by Vitalik called DAOs, DACs, DAs, and more, an incomplete terminology guide, where he talks in great depth about things like autonomous agents, decentralized applications, decentralized organizations, decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, and decentralized autonomous corporations. And he gives his thoughts on the differentiation between all of those. And what I really like about the article is he's got lots of examples there, including that cloud example that we just went through. And also it's written in very simple language. So it's on the Ethereum blog, and even though it's quite old, 2014, it's still very relevant, it's still a great read. We'll link this in the course notes. And again, if you're interested in learning more about DAOs and how all these things work, highly recommend checking it out. It will make a lot of things, like it'll give you a lot of knowledge on these topics. And on that note, hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I'll look forward to seeing you back here next time, and until then, enjoy blockchains.